Hello, everybody. Hi, hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Fine. Just- Hi, can you hear me? One, two, three. Can you hear me well? Hey. Yeah. Okay. I think everyone can hear me. I think you have to share your headphones. Hello, everybody. I think everyone can hear me. My name is. Okay. Hi. Everybody can hear me. They need. I think it's not working here. Can you? It is work? It is work, yeah. It is work now. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jimena Mora. No? You have to use the headphones. You have to use it. Okay. Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for being here. My name is Jimena Mora. I really want to thank you for joining us today. Uh, I will ask you to keep their headphones during the whole presentation. This is important in order to hear what we said. Welcome to our side event. This is a very important side event for us. We're coming from the government of Peru, especially we're coming from the Ministry of Environment, and we are here to share the climate vision of Peru through its LTS, LTS to the 2050 toward the resilience and carbon neutrality. Well, I would like now start, without further things. We would like to give the floor to our Deputy Ministry, Raquel Soto. She's here and she's gonna bring us an opening remarks for this side event. Please, Raquel, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, distinguished guests. It is an honor to welcome all of you to this important side event that we call Peru's Climate Vision through its National Climate Change Strategy to 2050 towards a resilient and carbon neutral Peru. Let me tell you that from the Ministry of Environment of Peru, we are very pleased to be able to share with all of you and the international community that Peru is just realizing its long-term climate change strategy that provides a vision to 2050 for a resilient and carbon neutral. This important milestone for Peru's climate management was achieved through an integrated, cross-cutting, and multi-sectoral approach. Our 2050 strategy reflects the firm commitment of the Peruvian state to act in response to this climate phenomenon, in line with the international commitments assumed before the convention, with a comprehensive approach that prioritizes adaptation in social services and our production systems, as well as mitigations of greenhouse gas emissions in the main emission sectors. The long-term strategy seeks to address the accelerated increase in the adverse consequences of climate change on the population and livelihoods in Peru. For this, the Peruvian government establishes objectives on adaptation, mitigation, and climate governance, in addition to 18 guidelines of national scope. Likewise, the long-term strategy includes 64 public services that will be implemented to address the impacts of climate change and complying with the implementation of our climate goals. Our objective is to reduce climate risk in the country and achieve the goal of reducing damages, losses and disruptions caused by climate change by 30% by 2050. And in terms of mitigation, we aim to limit GHG emissions to a maximum of 179.9 MTCO2 by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Finally, we seek to strengthen climate governance, integrating climate change into national planning, budgeting, and investment. Before I finish, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Resilient Hub for providing us with this valuable space. Their commitment to connecting and inspiring individuals for various sectors, business, civil society, academy, and government is crucial for fostering collaboration and scaling up actions that build resilience against climate change. This, this hub not only allows us to raise awareness of our long-term strategy for climate change, but also promotes locally informed and equitable solutions. We are motivated by the urgent need to increase the level of ambition and financing dedicated to building resilience, especially for the most vulnerable populations. We appreciate your presence and participation as your expertise and contributions are essential for advancing the construction of a more resilient and sustainable Peru. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Raquel. Thank you very much. Well, now, thank you for the words and thank you for giving us this background and this. Well, actually, you're sharing the objective of of this side event, and now we're going more deeply in this document, in this important instrument on climate change, and now on our now we are gonna have a presentation from, we're going to ask to Berioska Quispe, our General Director of Climate Change, also from the Ministry of Environment, to give us more details of our system and our climate change system. And please, Berioska, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jimena. First of all, I would like to send the greetings of the Minister of Environment, Juan Carlos Castro Vargas. He is right now in Peru, trying to get the main objectives for us. I want to share more about our long-term strategy. We have started a great journey since 2020. Okay, since 2021, we have tried to get, first of all, not only our commitments under Paris Agreement, but it's also related for our development, because you as a governor always see trying to get developed to the communities, to the territories, and in that way you can also provide carbon. You can also think about carbon neutrality and reduce the risks and impact that come from climate change. In the territories, many people many times even didn't have enough or water with enough quality to drink. So we have started in 2021 with the objectives, and also we have started with a multi-stakeholder approach, because in Peru we have indigenous peoples, local communities. We also have a big group of civil society, and we think that we need to hear the voices from all other people and trying to get our objectives put in place. And the second thing that we also have is we have approved our national regulation in 2018. It was approved our climate change law, and in 2019 we have approved the integral framework that was consulted with the indigenous peoples and local communities. And in that mandate, we have put that we need to approve the long-term strategy in the high level that we have in Peru. And the last thing that I want to raise, as mandated under Paris Agreement, long-term strategy is only about carbon neutrality. But Peru is a country with high vulnerability. So we have put inside our strategy also the things related to the vulnerability, because that is our vision. We need to achieve our goals under Paris Agreement. If we want to do our achievements, we need to think about adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage, and financial flows. We don't want to put only mitigation as an effort. So this is the picture from our journey. As I already mentioned, we have started in 2021. It was the beginning of the process. Then we need to work with the different, first with the with the public sector, trying to get the vision of every sector in the country, and trying to give the information from them about the GHG emissions and also about the vulnerabilities, including health, including weather, including all the things putting together. And then we have built the vision with all the stakeholders. And in Peru, we have a institution that gives the alignment for all the planning in the country, and they have a way that we need to go in order to get the approval at the high level commitment. So we have started with that institution that is called CEPLAN in Peru, and trying to go with them and build with them the vision, the measures, the indicators, and also how we need to engage better the other stakeholders. So during 2022 and 2023, we have worked with these institutions, a plan, and trying to get all the engagement. And also during 2022, we have worked with all the different stakeholders. We have 9 different groups in Peru that in where all the stakeholders speaks, and then we have published the first draft of the different indicators and on the different ways that we need to do in order to go and trying to approve the strategy. So, and during this year, we have worked with, at a government level, trying to get the approval. Sometimes, you also know, sometimes there are changes. So we need to restart and trying to have the engagement with the new government, and what is the word for this year. And then we are almost at the end of the peak. We are, as our deputy minister mentioned, we are we are almost at the end of, of the running of the journey. So right now we are only waiting for that approval. How I already mentioned, we have started trying to get what are the reasons for what we suffer. First of all is about adaptation. So we need to have an assessment about the risk and impact that went to the population, to the ecosystems, and also to the service. Because education, health, and also transportation many times suffer from the impacts of climate change. The second way was an assessment about the GHG emissions in all the different sectors of mitigation sectors. And also we have trying to get the best information that we can have. We have some sectors has the best information, some sectors we need to improve the information, but we have the enough information with the transparency that is required under the IPCC and under the different guidelines provided. And the third thing is about the lack of governance. Despite we have already approved our different three bodies, we need to go trying to get how the different bodies interlinkage between them and also how we can improve our work together. So now is our vision. First, by 2050, we want to provide enough capacity to the communities in order to reduce the impacts and vulnerabilities related to climate change, in order to avoid the loss and damage, and also we have put in the same level the ecosystems, because we are almost the second or third country with forests in South America, and we are the and also we want to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2050 with with um, with putting more effort in removals, but also trying to reduce the different sectors of emission. For example, I give a couple of examples. First is reducing in every sector, trying to align with the outcomes of the GST. More of them is related to put more effort in trying to increase the renewals, and also put more effort in trying to increase the technologies for non-CO2 emissions, and also trying to put more efforts in provide electric transportation for our population in GHG emissions. And related to the governance, we need to try to convene with different stakeholders, trying to get the structure that we already have inside our climate change law. Because in our climate change law, we have three different bodies. One body is for a public sector, and in that body is the High-Level Commission on Climate Change. In that body, we have all the 21 sectors that they need to assess and they need to conclude our climate change action for 2050 and beyond. And the second body is the National Commission on Climate Change. In that commission, we have the dialogues between private and public sector and also civil society and all the stakeholders in there. And we have the third body is the indigenous people platforms. In that indigenous people platform, we have all the different bodies, different constituencies of the indigenous peoples in there. And we have almost 7 different groups of indigenous peoples, 7 different constituencies from them, and we have in the platform all the constituencies included. So I don't want to explain a lot. I only want to end with a key message. Our long-term strategy is our vision to 2050, but right now we are working in our middle term. Our middle term is going to be put in our NDC 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Berioska. Thank you for that word and for give us this very good and comprehensive background and details about the LTCs. And now, in order to, we're going to have a discussion about this, and I have a panel here, and I have a female panel in this opportunity. For keep that this the discussion about the Peruvian LTCs, and actually we are going to have an interesting discussion because we are going to talk also about the experience and compare, ask about the experience in Chile. And let me introduce my panel, my panelists in this. For this, sorry, give me a second, please. Let me introduce first to Joana Arriaga from Chile. She is the implementation means coordinator at the Ministry of Environment of Chile. Please, Joanna, join us in the panel. Thank you. And also have Jimena Apastegui from the Climate Policy Advisor. She's a climate policy advisor from the Natural Conservancy. Please, Jimena, join us in the panel here. And finally, Mariana Panizo-Feldam is a country engagement director at the NDC Partnership. Thank you for the three of you. We are gonna have we're having two rounds of questions, and I'm gonna start with a question, and I would like to start with Joanna. I would like to. Well, I know that in Chile you already have a LTC, and you are submitted 3 years ago in 2021. So I would like to know that. Well, I would like to know how was your experience during these 3 last years. Tell me about it. Probably you can give us something. You can tell us something about what the main. Tell us about the main challenges during these 3 first years of implementing your strategy. I don't know about the relation with the key stakeholders in Chile. Tell us about the challengers, or what kind of the recommendation that you bring us for us during especially the first kickoff. What do you think that would be the main the main opportunities at the very beginning of this important process?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, as Virioska from Peru told us, yeah, we in Chile have a long-term strategy. Is looking 2050. So we put the mitigation and adaptation goals 2050, and we have also our NDC that we can look from here to 10 years. So in 2019, we have in these years the COP presidency of Chile of the COP25. So we are working a lot in our LETS process. We have a big participatory process. We have an early participatory process. We went to each region of the country to receive the comment from different organizations, the private sector, the academy, the civil society, and also the public institutions. And then we have like a proposal, but in parallel we have like a high-level committee where we call different experts from different sectors. Also, they working together with our ministry in this moment, and we are working in the type of goal that we have. But the main challenge that we have is that we present the LETS in November 2021, and at the same moment we are discussing the legal process with the parliament of a new framework law of the climate change law. So we have approved of the law in June 2022, and this law recognizes our LETS, that our long-term strategy with long-term goals, and then we need to put those goals in a practical ways in our sectoral mitigation and adaptation plans. So the law established that we need to do like 12 adaptation plans. Some are adaptation and mitigation, for example, in transport, energy. And we, in this process that we are now, the law established some term also, we have 2 years to have those sectoral plans. So in this process, we are again discussing with the different sector, private, public, academy, and civil society. And now we have some specific measures in the plans where we integrate the participation, for example, of the GREMI, I don't know what is the name, but the aggregation of private sector. I don't know the word in English, sorry. Yeah, but now we have, for example, in the infrastructure plan, they are working together with the construction sector from the private sector. So we are trying to bring to the private sector and all the academy in the plans, in the specific measures. I think that now we have looking the coherence between instruments, because we are at the same time working in the sectoral plans, regional plans, and local plans. And in the local plans, also all the civil society, private sector, and academy should involve. So we are trying to look at the coherence, but we are working on that. Yeah, I think we have other thing that the participatory process is very important for us. We've signed the Escazú agreement also, so it's very important to have early participatory process and formal participatory process. So the law established that in each instrument we need to have an early process and a formal process, and in those we need to answer each comment of each person, and at the final we need to have a summary document that we can show what changed between the previous proposal and the last proposal. Yeah, I stop there to have time.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanna. Okay, I'm gonna jump up to Jimena, and I know, well, that you and also Mariana, both of you have experience in the region, so I'm gonna address this question based on that, and I would like to know, I would like to ask you about the mechanisms that I can help to achieve the coordination and also the between the governments and the key stakeholders like academia or private sector or social society and probably indigenous people as well. That very important in the region. That what kind of mechanism can make more effective this coordination and help us, especially and can make more effective the coordination in terms of implementing this kind of LTCs for Peru. What can help us in this especially moment, very important moment for us in this moment.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the invitation. First, let me congratulate you for the presentation and all the efforts that you've done to truly do the process in a truly participatory way. I love seeing the mentions of the GST, the inclusion from the global outcomes into national efforts like this, and the fact that you've already mentioned, for example, the consideration of both ecosystems and populations when we look at risk are all elements that at TNC we've been working a lot in, so it's great to see that. In terms of strategies and mechanisms to advance towards implementation, I would say that from our experiences engaging in planning instruments like this, one key point is, and I believe you've already started doing that, is involving different stakeholders from the onset of the processes, because in many occasions it happens that stakeholders are involved later on, and then the level of appropriation with the process and the implementation becomes more limited when they perhaps don't have that much clarity on the entirety of the methodology that was used to develop, and involving them from the onset sometimes even can mean starting with leveling the knowledge and the understanding of the concepts associated with climate change that we're talking about, because even from the private sector to the public sector or different groups, sometimes we have different frameworks for understanding how we plan for issues such as climate. So kind of like leveling the field of how we all understand what we're talking about is sometimes a key step that we've had to work in different countries. In Jamaica, for example, we're working on including nature in the NDC, and we realized that even the understanding of, for example, when we talk about blue carbon targets, that was something that for some people was a bit they hadn't had previous experience on that. So leveling the understanding in these processes and making sure we're all speaking the same language is something that has been important. And I would say there's also a lot of value in taking advantage of existing structures. It can be already governance mechanisms that might exist to plan for development, or for example, you just mentioned the synergies, right, between NDCs and NBSAP. Sometimes there's already structures that are in place that can be highly effective. So instead of starting from scratch and creating a new one for this specific process, I think it's very useful to also see what's out there that already works, and seeing how you can also ingrain the process to some extent in those existing processes is also a way to not start from scratch and also not work in silos between all these different agendas. So for example, if the NBSAP process is also something that also is going on and there's data collection there that can be of use for a process such as the NDC, then making sure that we identify those and try to maximize the use of those synergies in data, in consultations between actors, are all things that we've felt could be useful, and that then reflect in implementation, because then the appropriation and the feeling of participation from the onset will then lead even for more to some extent, for it to become more possible for the plan to actually be implemented, even in spite of potential changes in governments, like were mentioned in the presentation. So that's another one. And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Mariana. The same question, and especially, you coming from the NDC partnership, that's an important partner for us, and so I would like to hear what you can tell us from because you know very well the region, so I'm very interested in what you can tell us for that. I think.
Let's see. This one works?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for for inviting us to this conversation. And I think thinking specifically wanting to focusing on this enabling environment of how you really mobilize this whole of society approach that we all keep talking about. And I think that that is so critical, and just thinking about the long-term view of how you do this, not just for a moment, but actually as a continuous process. So, so thank you for generating this conversation. So very briefly, for those of you who don't know, the NDC Partnership is a global coalition that brings together basically developed countries and international institutions to support countries' efforts to drive climate action in line with sustainable development. We have 230 members, so we have basically more than 130 countries, 114 developing countries and 19 developed countries, and then close to 100 institutions. And basically the way we operate is we're very much country-driven, so we work with countries like Chile and Peru and others to understand their needs and their priorities. We help articulate those in the form of requests for support, and we turn to our broad membership to respond to those requests in a way that really develops a tailored package of support, so that really we can draw on the expertise of various members to, in a more effective way, support country needs. And that means that we support countries through the whole cycle. So we support them on developing midterm targets like NDCs, developing long-term strategies so that midterm targets align with long-term targets, as well as alignment across different instruments like NBSAPs, NAPs, NDCs, et cetera. So, so let's talk about the issue of coordination. So as I mentioned, we have a broad membership of countries, and so we have it's a very interesting perspective to see what topics emerge in terms of needs across the board. And interestingly enough, the issue of coordination mechanisms is one that comes across a lot. 87 countries, we basically have tracked every single request since the partnership has come into being 8 years ago. We have over 6,000 requests that we have received in that time. And what I can tell you is that 87 countries, basically 90% of our countries that are members, have sought support on stakeholder engagement. And 74 countries, basically 76%, have requested support on intragovernmental coordination. So Peru is not alone in trying to say, like, how do we work on this? This is a shared challenge and opportunity, I would say. And if we have to reflect on the kind of coordination that is needed, what I would like to reflect is 3 areas in which we've seen it's been very helpful. And in the presentation of the deputy minister and the director, I think you heard some of these that Peru has already been activating. So one is, if we want to coordinate a whole of society approach, we first need, at the governmental level, we need, I think it's very important to have interministerial commissions that are going to drive this, because this, we need to mainstream climate change across all of government, and that really requires a sustained mechanism for coordination that really brings together all of the sectors. And I think that, as countries go deeper in that coordination, it starts with broader awareness raising, but it moves much more into really fulfilling mandates of the different ministries in a coordinated manner. So looking at national budgets, overall national planning, the link between national planning and NDCs, sectoral plans, and then being able to track this over time. And I think that this is really important to sustain over time with the help of a long-term strategy that then drives that process over time. The second piece is partner coordination, which I know Peru does a lot of coordination with partners, but I'm not sure whether it is right now systematized, whether a space already exists. But part of the reason why the partnership has come into being is because what we have seen is that while support comes in, it is not always coordinated. There is duplication of efforts. Support goes to different ministries. People don't always know who's supporting what. And I think that with the vantage point of a long-term strategy and the midterm targets of an NDC, the value and the power of actually aligning support in a way that really aligns with country priorities and can more visibly clarify what support is being provided by development and implementing partners, what support is missing, I think is really critical in order to give further traction to the objectives that are proposed. The third The third element, I would say, is this whole of society, engagement that actually looks at subnational and non-state actors, including indigenous peoples and local communities and others. And what I would say is that, in that case, I think it's very important. Many countries have these mechanisms for consultation during the development of strategies, but they are not necessarily sustained during implementation. And I think that ensuring that a space like the one Peru has created with Dialoguemos, that is a mechanism for ongoing engagement, is really critical, so that different stakeholders don't feel consulted only at the strategy setting stage, but is consulted and is empowered and creates a sense of shared accountability during the implementation. So I think that that's important. And for example, I wanted to share with you a couple of examples. Like, in the case of Ecuador, for example, there is this ongoing effort that has taken place between the Ministry of Environment, Water, and Ecological Transition and the National Council for Gender Equality to bring together different stakeholders to advance the integration of gender into climate action. And this has resulted in not just a dedicated plan, but actually an ongoing engagement on this issue of how you mainstream gender. So maybe just to say in closing that I think the partnership has supported this effort in different ways. We support in-country coordination with facilitation. We support the development of multi-year frameworks that actually allow to do that kind of tracking. And overall, because we engage with so many partners, we encourage that coordination. So thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. And you already go to one issue that I would like to go deeply in this in the second question, and it's about to maintain the engagement in a really long term, because we are talking about the long-term strategies, and that it's very important to maintain an effective implementation in long terms, not only inside of governments, where I think it's very important to maintain this engagement with all the key stakeholders, private sector, and the social society. So I would like to go to for a second round of questions. Probably we can start with Jimena. I would like to ask about recommendations to go in order to how to sustain this engagement, and that's it. How to. I would like to hear your thoughts about recommendation in effect in maintain the engagement in order to go to, because that engagement is translating in an effective implementation. There is no way to go to keep an implementation if we don't have any partners around.
Yes, thank you. Maybe to point to three recommendations. The first one, and going to many of the points that you just mentioned, I think many times us, like for example TNC as a civil society or an NGO, get consulted through the process, but then don't find ways to involve in implementation and don't see ourselves reflected in the actual outcomes of the plan to clearly know, okay, I can come in and contribute here. And it tends to happen the same with private sector, where they get consulted, but then the plan ends up being very public sector-ish or institutional, and then that creates a gap. So I think one of the key points is making sure that within the plans, there's clarity on how other actors can contribute towards implementation. Before being TNC, I was part of, for example, the government in Costa Rica, and one of the challenges that we also had with the NDC and the NAPS was government institutions having to have targets that they can make sure that if they set a target, they can actually have budget for it, right? According to national planification processes, you tend to commit to what you can achieve. But then in terms of ambition, you're leaving behind setting targets that include other actors. So making sure you play with the planning instrument so that you can have both, that you can have clarity on where the government institutions and government sector will contribute with clear budgets, hopefully with clarified estimation of costs and implementation mechanisms from public resources, but also opening the door for other actors to clearly specify through, it can be through separate action plans or through these existing mechanisms, but for them to have the chance to clearly specify, this is how I can come in to contribute. And within that space, I would say the second point is not just making sure there's a clear roadmap for them to contribute, but also hopefully for there to be discussions on the finance part, right? This is the finance scope, and I think it's important that we mention then that that's a key gap that we also find in the region in general, right? We know that it's a region that has a lot of fiscal limitations and debt to assume many of the climate commitments that we need. So we really need also the mobilization of private finance. So making sure that beyond talking about the plans, that we're also talking about how we actually finance this and making sure we think about innovative instruments and decide country roadmaps and a platform that really allows to think through how do we actually get all of this financed is another key point.
Thank you. Joanna, what kind of recommendation can you give us in the same way?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think in the same line. Yeah, the law from Chile established a national system of climate change information and participation, and the idea is that the civil society and all organizations from private sector could participate, but not only the design of the instrument, they can follow also the implementation and the monitoring and reporting. So that is the idea. We are designing this platform, but the platform should include also all the information about climate change, for example, the inventory process, the prospective GHG emissions, the climate risk platform that we have, and also the science repository about climate change, but also this specific system to follow all the instruments. In parallel, we are designing another, like a register of climate action from the different actors. So we are thinking how we can have this register to put we know that the local communities, in the regions, in the different territories, the private sector are doing a lot of things, but we can bring to the institutional or the instrument. So we are trying to put like a register to have all those action there, but we are working on how we can certify or verify the level of implementation of those actions. So we're working on that also. And we have also an empowerment climate strategy where we look that in all process we count with people from different territories, local communities, from all the sector, that we need that all people is involved, the youth people, all women, men, all people are involved in climate change challenge to implement the things differently. So we are trying to do that also at the national level. And for example, now they are working in our NDC process as well as Peru told us, and we have all the formal process. We have an early process. We have also a formal process, but we have also an additional committee, a carbon neutrality committee. The Ministry of Environment, Maisa Rojas, told to this private sector that we need to identify some specific action that we need to implement during the next NDC process. The idea was that they identify action led by the private sector, but yeah, they give a lot of they give us a lot of responsibilities additional, but yeah, we are working on that. So yeah, I think I can mention that. And we are also working gender. I follow gender in negotiation and at the national level, we are working on that also to integrate gender in all our instruments. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I don't know, Mariana, if you already give us some recommendation before, but if you want to add something, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I think that some elements were mentioned by the two colleagues, but I just wanted to put a finer point on those and add. So I think that this question of how to sustain it over time is really critical. And I think that number one, I think that as was reflected in the experience of Chile, I think that formally embedding the role of subnational and non-state actors in the strategy itself as something that is key for the success of the strategy is really critical, and tying that with a legal mandate for consultation during design and implementation, I think is really critical, because then that, regardless of the political ups and downs, it is a mandated space. It's a mandated ongoing conversation that can that can really live together with the length that the strategy will have. The second piece is I know it is very challenging. Sometimes these conversations are contentious because they involve transitions, but I think that creating that sense of trust that emerges from the transparency and creating a cycle of presentation, conversation, implementation, and then follow up, I think can be very powerful over time. And I want to connect that with the 3 levels of coordination that I mentioned before, because if you have an ongoing transparent system of being able to show what are the key priorities across sectors, what is the key support right now across sectors, and what is the contribution of subnational and non-state actors across those sectors, you can start getting a more comprehensive picture of what is taking place in the country. And in that, I really want to recognize, I think that this is a big challenge for many countries, and it's great to hear that Chile is trying to figure this out. This question of how you account for the contribution of subnational and non-state actors. I think that this is a critical piece. Some things it may be possible to track. Others may be more qualitative, but if people can see themselves reflected in the strategy, and if there is an ongoing space for coordination where stakeholders can see their actions reflected and taken into account, I think that can be a very powerful mechanism for inspiring further action and calling for more. So I would just say, Peru has created this space with Dialoguemos that you have been sustaining. I know that with the support of the partnership right now for the development of the new NDC, part of this involves further consultations using this mechanism. I think that there is a foundation there that maybe combining that with a structured coordination across these 3 levels of coordination can really can be utilized to sustain coordination in the long run.
Thank you very much. Those are very, very, very valuable recommendation for us and very, very valuable. And I really appreciate all the insights that you give us. As I said before, this is a very important moment for us. We are started, but we're coming from a very long process, and we are trying since the very beginning to make this process as a participatory, as a tribe. We having involving all the actors from the very beginning, but still it's very challenging at this moment, because as you said, we have to start to showing something in order to keep showing and inspiring and the rest, because there were a lot of effort before, and so it's the moment to show the goal, to try to show something and make it worth of the effort that everybody, all the governments and the sectors, and at the end the whole country had made at this moment. I really appreciate all you being here for and join us in this at this side event and this presentation. We are as the Vice Minister and also Berioska said, we are really excited and we're really happy for the release of our LTCs, and well, very really excited as well for all the work that is coming at this moment. Thank you very much for joining us today.